Okay, hi. Good to see or hope to see a lot of you out there today. Another great day in the Tembi and Microsoft ecosystem. I have been looking forward to this event today, where I have invited Shish Sridhar from Microsoft for startups, and I'll give the word to you in a few minutes, Shish. But uh, you and me, we have been working quite a lot together over the last year,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
you are, in my view, a technologist, a magician, like creating all different kind of things with AI. Great posts, amazing decks and visuals and podcasts, and you're really trying all possibilities and new things that's happening. And at the same time, you also work a lot within the retail and the e-commerce space. So really pushing for some of these new technologies. And for all of you listening out there today, Shish will give a short overview about how's this field moving within the MCP and agentic AI. And then I'm going to tell a bit about how we're actually handling that in Tempe, and we are even going to do a demonstration about agentic AI on MCP servers directly in the some of the Microsoft apps like Copilot and Teams. So these are some of the things that we will be going through today. But amazing to have you there, Shish. I'm here in Copenhagen. It's late afternoon. You're in Seattle. It's early
Yeah.
morning. So I'll let you introduce yourself, Shish, and then I'm looking forward to hear a bit about how you see this world unfold.
Yeah. And thank you, Christian. So before I jump in, I'd like to do a quick intro and also how we work together with Tembi and Christian. So I'm Shish. I'm the lead for retail CPG within Microsoft for Startups, and I'm very fortunate to work with some very innovative startups that are working with really cool technology, and one of them is Tembi. At Microsoft for Startups, we have this massive ecosystem of startups, 300,000 or so, but there is a very small curated set that we refer to as Pegasus that we pick based on what is in demand by our customers. What are customers prioritizing? And based on that, we pick a few. And these are actually selected for various criteria. Are they enterprise ready? Are they scalable and truly ready for tier one enterprise? And Tembi is one of those. And it's been great working with Christian over the past couple of months, really engaging with customers and creating that story of why Tembi is important for enterprises. It is a growing space, and I think the most interesting conversation that we had recently was around MCP, and that is a conversation that hugely excites me. And that's something I'll talk about now before we go into some really cool demos from Christian about how we engage. I've been in Microsoft for 29 years, and I think we are at the moment now, over the entire time, that I would say right now, the pace of change is the fastest I've seen. That's not all. Not only the pace of innovation, but also the pace of adoption has been faster than I've ever seen. So all of the technology that's being released out there, we have the opportunity to work with not only startups but enterprises, and we're seeing that pace go to a rate that I've never seen before, and that makes it extremely interesting. So what I'll do is I'll kind of jump in and walk through some of the MCP terminology and set the ground before Christian actually shows you the capabilities. So let me know when the screen, Christian, can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Super. So one of the things that I want to begin with is that we're going from, there's different areas that we're going through. The first one is really the systems of record. So in the past, the systems of record were capturing what happened. So the ERPs and the CRMs and the merchandising platforms, they captured information. And they enable decisions. So people would capture the information and enable decisions from it, all of that. And then there was the second phase, which was really the systems of insight, which would really look at all the patterns within that data that was being captured in all of the ERP and CRM and all the systems. It bubbled up the insights and enabled decisions. Decision making became very easy as a result. And the third one that we are in right now, the systems of action. And this is really where the software has reached a point where it can make decisions and execute and monitor and, to a degree, work autonomously. And humans in this area is really about setting the guardrails and defining how it works and all of those kind of things. So we are, I would say, at a very, very exciting time where the entire landscape is really changing, and we are participating in that massive change. And that's what makes it extremely interesting for all of us in being a spectator or part of this change that's going on. One of the concepts, and this is where I kind of talked about that Christian and I were talking about it, and Christian just built out the entire MCP server capability for Tembi. So Tembi enables you to get all this market data from the internet and enable decision making, enable organizations to get a better idea of what's happening out there in the e-commerce world. Adding the MCP capability, what it does is it really enables organizations to now easily tap into all of the skills and capabilities that Tembi provides. The visual that I put together here really explains what an MCP, or a Model Context Protocol, really is. If you look at the image on the left, when you have all of these different applications, if your application is trying to get information from merchandising, from inventory, from Salesforce, from SAP, from Oracle, there's various types of integration and connection to be made for them. Each of them is unique, each of them is complex. And the challenge here is, because of that complexity and because of the amount of work that goes into integrating, a lot of companies don't have those integrations in place, or they have a very clunky interface between the two. And this impacts the way people work within an organization. Things are not streamlined. And that is one of the biggest blockers, I would say, for productivity. And what MCP does is, if you think about the USB port, where you have all these different types of cables, and today we have USB like a single standard. It doesn't matter what kind of device you have, whether you're connecting a headphones or printers or a camera, it's the same USB port. There's no complexity there. And that's really what MCP does. You have all of these enterprise applications within your organization, and then you want to be able to connect to them with a single interface, and that's MCP in a very simplistic way. And this is one of the big innovations that Tembi has put together, which actually enables us to now access the information that Tembi is delivering through a very easy interface. The cool thing about this is, because of that capability, we can now use ChatGPT, we can use Copilot, we can use Cloud, or we can use any other application that is enabled for MCP and get the information we need. If there's a workflow, we can get that information very easily. When we look at the application space, this actually means a lot within the application space changes. The way we engage with the organizational data, the insights and everything. If you look at the bottom layer, it is all of your line of business applications within your world, including Tembi. Tembi will bring in all the e-commerce data. When you put an MCP layer there, now if you look at the top, you have the ability to go to Copilot, ask a question. Copilot will make a decision and orchestrate and figure out where should that answer come from. And because all of these bottom layer have MCPs, it will find the right solution or the right application and get the response for you. It could get it from a combination of these things. And that is the beauty of MCP. It just makes it easy for end users to access information. So you could be part of an agentic workflow or an agent or even conversational. One of the big changes that I'm seeing as well is, we went from no automation. We had all these workflows. We needed to do things, processes to get information. If I wanted to do research about how do I price my products, I would access the information from the competitors. I would do the analysis. So there was a process, and it was a very manual process. We went into RPAs, that second automation 1.0, where we put in business rules for defining how that flow happens. But it was very rigid. If there was any kind of disruption, any change, that flow no longer worked. So we are now at that third phase, the automation 2.0 with LLMs, where there is an intelligence built in. You just define the outcome rather than the flow itself. You don't explicitly define the flow. You don't explicitly define the rules. You define the outcome, and the intelligence in the system will define how to get there. And also, if there's a disruption, what changes need to be made to get there. And that's the beauty of that new way of doing workflows. And this is the kind of place where Tembi fits in. If there's a decision that needs competitor information, it will know, call the MCP from Tembi and get that information to support that decision. And that's really how workflows work today. And with that, I'll hand it over to Christian.
Thank you, Shish. I think it's. I like your analogy to the USB, because it makes it so easy to comprehend what is going on in this field. What is MCP? Trying to connect the digital world with one kind of connector, and it's a really good image for it. So, and Tembi, we are a company that makes market intelligence for the e-commerce space, e-commerce and retail, and this means that we collect a lot of information. Think of it like the world we look into right now is. Think of it like the world before Google Maps. Like, where did you know how to go somewhere? You would need to find the bus schedule, and you might have a map. And then if you want to go to a store, you remembered that you found it in the phone book. So you had like the data floating around, fragmented, and you as a human being, you needed to try to move your way around. So what we have been building is what we call like the intelligence infrastructure of the agentic economy around e-commerce, and that is about collecting a lot of data. Before going into some of the demos, I just want to give you an idea of what we actually talking about, because when we talk about, here's like a chart that demonstrates a bit what is it we're talking about when we talk about the e-commerce industry. We talk about millions of online retailers and millions of or even hundreds of millions of unique products that are available, billions of products available on the market constantly. We talk about variations of these products. We talk about prices. We talk about payment methodologies and the distribution through different kind of marketplaces, and the way these are going to be shipped back home to each and every one of us. And why is that important? It is important in this agentic economy where we have to have the protocols that can go in and become this connector, that there is somewhere where this USB can be plugged in, and there is a connection in that plug-in, because agents will now make it easy for all of us to go in and do the purchases along the way. So it can purchase on our behalf, and this means that this e-commerce industry will need to open it up. But when you sit and work in e-commerce, in retail, as one of those that ship these goods, as some of those that work around this field, you still need to know that you're actually positioned properly, that you're able to be the ones that to make these decisions. So what we do in Tembi to build this kind of e-commerce intelligence infrastructure is that currently we are collecting information from 1.2 million online retailers. We collect 850 million unique products with all of variations on top of that. We collect information about 125,000 unique brands, and all the you can say the information in the flow that you meet as a consumer. And we do that between every day and twice per month. So that gives us like a huge immense data set. What the MCP has allowed us to do, we want to make this data and these insights available to professionals, so professionals are able to foresee what's happening, so they can act before the market and become successful in what they do. And with the new development we see in this field, we see that the entire retail and e-commerce space will move into a space where things go automatically. We were talking about autonomous category management as an example. I met a couple of weeks ago. I met a company where you had on average 20,000 products that a category manager should be able to handle, and of course that cannot happen physically. That cannot happen manually. It can only happen if the things automatically. So and with this immense data set, we need something that can go in and actually extract the right information to make some of this workflow happen automatically. And that's what we have been building, where we then can, through the MCP, can connect through the different kinds of services that you use, or the different kind of apps that you use yourself. Because we are seeing this space going from somewhere where we made decisions based on analysis or our own internal data, to a space right now where this is becoming more and more, we call it a hybrid, in a space where system and humans, they interact, but in a not very far distant future, this happens automatically. And that, therefore, we need this intelligence infrastructure if we are to, as professionals in this space, to be able to say, okay, how should we actually play along in this field? And I'm going to show you a bit about how this is handled in reality. Because what you can say is that, as I mentioned, here we have like hundreds of thousands of different brands. We have millions of websites and hundreds of millions of different kinds of products available where you can go in and shop. So if you work as in the e-commerce industry and you want to know different stuff that's important for your business, you need to have that at hand. So now let me just ask a question here. Let's imagine that we are going into to the Netherlands, and we work in electronics, and we actually want to know that market. So what I can now ask in Copilot is I can simply ask the question about how many brands and how many webshops. It's a place to start. Are there within the product category of electronics in the Netherlands? And what we're doing right now is that we are fetching data, the right data, from the 450 tables that we have in the Tembi MCP, and analyzing this information. We're looking at the product categories, we're looking at the web shops, we're looking at the brands, we're looking at the market. Just in the Netherlands, we make this analysis around 120,000 different kinds of web shops. And to start with, we now know that there are more than 19,000 brands and 100 you can say and 15,000 web shops represented. Of course, this doesn't make a good analysis. So let's just try to break this further down by subcategories, so we can have a look at it from that perspective. Because it's much we would typically need, if we want to go into a market like the Netherlands, we would need to know how is that split up in different kind of subcategories. Should we sell computers? Should we sell like connectors? Should we sell screens and whatever is it is? And I took the liberty to prepare some of these prompts, so you shouldn't sit around and waiting for me to type some of things. But now I'm actually asking to to break this down in to subcategories. And now we have started breaking it down, and we can see the different kind of electronics, accessories, and these kind of things. Furthermore, that would not be the only thing I would need to know. I would also need to know more about how many, how does it look like comparing to other markets, for instance. That could be something that I wanted to know more about. So I'm just not looking at the Netherlands, but I'm actually assessing this towards other markets and other countries that I would like to go into. And these are questions that we would not have been able to answer just recently. First of all, this would take forever for consultants. I've been consultant myself. There's nothing wrong with consultants. I love them. I had a blast, but at the same time, this would have been taking forever because we would not have been able to collect this information. The information we collect every time we pick it up, we actually able to pick this up. It would take 99,000 people 1 year to do this. So as you can see, I can simply boil this down and come closer and closer to something that is a market analysis that can help me. Now I'm just looking at the average price because that's actually worth knowing as well. What is it I can do before I understand, is there a market in the Netherlands? Is the Dutch market something that we can get into? And then we can actually always, now it's a very analytical one, but I can then go in and get some kind of advice for this. So now what we did was we asked a question about the market in the Netherlands. We looked at it. We found out how many players are out there, what are the brands and products available, and now we can actually start assessing where is it actually that we should go in this field. So we could go into video, and then we can look at how is the pricing that we are having comparing to the different kinds of countries we're in. Okay, let's say help me with some actionable recommendations, so I actually have an idea of what is it I should do across some of this analytics. So it can help me on a strategy level, and that's a good spot to be in, and I convert that into priority roadmaps with timelines. So the Copilot can actually help me become a strategist. But that's one thing, becoming a good strategist that can help us do some of these things. But the second thing that we are now able to do is that we would be able to take it to another level, because we can fuel our own organization with these kind of information. I just want to go back to that one. Sorry for that. I want to go back to this one right here, because I'm just showing you a view of what we've now been building. We have taken this very, very complex analysis and made a strategy about it, and then we can through the different, this is Copilot Studio, build agents where we are able to go in and give ourselves some good advice on how to move ahead. And this is me just connecting this from the Tembi intelligence layer to make sure that me and the rest of the team can get information about how does the Spanish market look, and I want to know about the Spanish market for this, and I want to do that on a recurring basis, so I can get that into my teams, but I can also connect it to all kind of other systems, so I will be able to be more, if I work as a category manager, I would want to make sure that those that work in this field, that they are actually able to, for instance, get this kind of I'm just trying to share this field right here. That is to get, for instance, it could be a weekly market briefing about what's happened in Spanish clothing, in the Spanish e-commerce market, but it could also be, so this is automatically being funneled. This is every week going into the price analysis and the different kind of things. But I could also set it up so this happens every hour or every minute or whatever it is, and notify me or notify my procurement system or the category management system every time things things change and happen in a way where where we can then automatize all of the rest of the things in our technology stack. And this was a very short introduction to some of the features that we can do now, and we couldn't have done this the same way just a year or two ago. Technology works really fast. So she's demonstrating this very quick overview, and I could go on for hours with this, and we can keep it, and I think you could as well. Where do you think this will take us as a companies and as an economy?
And before I go that, one of the things that was very impressive when you were going through this, one is, the conversational interface. And the key thing that I think I failed to mention when I talked about MCP is that anything that's got an MCP interface is now open to conversational.
Yes.
And that's a huge capability.
It is.
And you can have all kinds of conversations. You can ask questions. You can challenge it and all of that. And that conversational thing, from one perspective, is you don't need a lot of training to use the software. That's the beauty of it. The other thing that he showed that I thought was really interesting was making it part of an agent, where you want to be able to generate a weekly report or a daily report or something like that. But when you build an agent, the cool thing about agents is the agents have access to tools, applications, and this is where, an agent, if it needs to use Tembi, it could use Tembi at certain things, like, for example, the report that you generated in the Spanish market, where it is using Tembi in the background. The point here is also that users don't even need to know what is going on. Is there a Tembi application being used? They have no awareness of that. Their only interface is, I want to talk to the agent, give me a report about the Spanish market, and the agent will figure out through all the MCP discovery to say which application in the back end it would use. And everything, all of this concept came to life when you went through that demo. And I think that was very powerful. Going forward, I kind of think one of the things that, and let me share my screen. Give me a second. All right. So one of the things that I see from an evolution of the enterprise and agents and the conversational interface is really changing the way we work. Productivity is changing. I remember in the 90s or late 80s, 90s, when the desktop was really changing. Many organizations were going from a desk with a phone on them to a desk with a desktop computer on them and learning productivity tools. And they were learning, Excel and Word and all of those things. You had to learn them in the 90s. Today, everyone takes them for granted. We are reaching a point right now where AI tools are becoming the norm. Every productivity worker would use a conversational interface, would use an agent, and even have the ability to create an agent. And that's where we are. So when we think about applications, there is all of these capabilities, like CRM capabilities, the capabilities that Tembi provides to analyze the market out there. So these are capabilities out there. And then we as productivity workers have the ability to go to a conversational interface, the ability to create an agent through natural language. Just tell the agent, what's the outcome I want? Just like the one that Christian, you showed, show me the report. So if you look at this visual, which really talks about, on the top, if you look at it, it is the siloed application that we worked all this while, the ERPs and the CRMs. Now the MCP is fusing everything together and saying, now talk to those applications through a conversational interface. You don't even need to know, are you using CRM or ERP? It doesn't matter. Just talk to it and say, tell it what you want, and it'll give it to you because of MCP. And that's that huge transformation. And if you look at the bottom, where are we going? We went from applications that we use on our laptops and desktops to applications that actually do analysis and think. And then the agents that will actually do things on your behalf, they will run autonomously. And then we are at a point where we are working with agents that will collaborate with us. These agents could have skills, and the skills could include applications like Tembi. A lot of times, the way work is transforming and applications are transforming is really tasks are being automated. The outcomes is what humans own. So you would own the outcome. I want to better optimize my business by setting up the price and what products I sell. In order to do that, there's many tasks I need to do. I need to analyze the market, and those tasks are what's automated. So Tembi is part of that task automation process, and the human still owns the outcome. And that's kind of how I see the application landscape evolving.
That's a really good perspective. And when you're saying that, I'll just wrap up with three things. First of all, I agree with the conversational thing. And the thing is, it's actually fun because it takes you in a ways as if you worked with a consultant before, because you get into that kind of like, okay, what about, should I do this? Or what if I did that? Would you like it to do? So you get some other perspectives to it. However, at the same time, it's up to companies like ours, and that is one of the things we excel at, to make sure that when you look at the facts and the data, you get the same response every time, and it can't hallucinate. That's up to us to make sure that that happens, and with the underlying data infrastructure, the context, and everything around that, so that works perfectly. And then I think there's the third thing here is, as you said, like we can put it completely into the workflows. Imagine our competitor now had a new product assortment that they didn't have last week, automatically call for a meeting with these 5 people because their competitors are doing something. And that way it becomes something, as you say, does work in the background. And I think that's I think for me the last thing here, we're gonna change the world with this new technology, and in a few years or months, most of us would actually have these kind of services embedded directly in everything we do. Shish, as always, it's been a pleasure to have you here today, sharing your perspectives and the knowledge about what's going on outside. And to everyone else, from Tembi, from me, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a thrill like always.
Thank you very much, and I encourage you to reach out to Christian to talk about MCPs and Tembi. It's always a fun conversation. Thank you.
And you can do that you can write me an email or go through LinkedIn or something like that. Have a great evening, Copenhagen. Great day in Seattle.
Thank you. It's a beautiful day.